All right, model user guides. So this is just a quick video just to run through a few different ideas and concepts as to how you might put together a model user guide. Now, in terms of the types of user guides you might want to create, there tends to be kind of three main types. The first is an independent Word or PDF document. The other is an embedded hyperlink structure, which is something that you put in a model that allows somebody to actually click from the user guide into the details of the model. And the third type is some sort of training video or kind of media-based user guide that people can refer back to. Now, three fairly different options. They all tend to have their own pros and cons. Word documents are great, but a lot of modelers tend to struggle when it comes to using Word. I personally like the kind of embedded hyperlink mechanism for reasons I'll explain in a second. The video option is entirely doable. In this day and age, it's pretty easy to put them together. The only issue with the video option is that it's quite hard if the model changes to update. So they tend to be kind of unitary things. I'd be wary of the video option. Now, in terms of the two main approaches for a user guide, it's good to be very explicit about what you're trying to do, A, with the model, and B, therefore, with the user guide. So the two main approaches are reference versus process. A reference user guide is basically a statement of the content of the model. It pretty much gives you an outline of, typically sheet by sheet, area by area, and pretty much just allows you to document the model completely. And from a use perspective, the model user then uses it as a reference guide and goes back into the document to look up the particular point that they're struggling with. By comparison, a process-based user guide typically reflects the fact that the model has a sequence of use. So for example, if you have a monthly roll forward process for an FP&A model, a process-based guide is very easy for a user to use. Go to this location, do this, go to this location, do that. From a sequence perspective, it tends to be a much smaller document. It doesn't tend to give them the first principles kind of understanding and comprehension of the model, but it is very efficient in terms of things like handover and distilling down the fundamental purpose and process behind any model's intended use. Now, to relate this back to the types of models, my favorite type of user guide is the embedded process user guide. So one of the benefits of Excel is that people can pick it apart and they can understand what's actually happening. So once you combine something like a traverse tool with a unit of logic, if people want to understand how the model is structured and how calculations work, there are tools that will support that. By comparison, documenting the process of use for a model tends to be a lot cleaner and a lot sharper. To relate this back to the types of user guides you can put together, an embedded hyperlinked process guide is an incredibly powerful thing. What it gives somebody is the ability to follow a sequence through, and we include things like checkboxes and source references and things like that to actually support the overall cycle of use. An embedded hyperlinked process user guide it's a really efficient way to actually document a user guide. So again, not providing you with the definitive answers here. A lot of the time it's just, hey, have you considered this? And again, it's good to just be very clear in your thinking as to whether you want a process-based user guide or some sort of reference piece.